Today, let's talk about the cheapest camera accessories that you can get that will make your online content just so much easier to make. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. And welcome back to reviewing the cheapest. Yes, we've had it on a separate channel, but ain't nobody got time to manage two YouTube channels, so reviewing the cheapest is coming back to the Everyday Dad, and we're gonna start it off with my favorite cheap accessories that I use for my YouTube videos, and we're gonna talk through each one of these today and how it can help you out. So we'll move all of them out of the way, and then we'll talk about them one by one. So first off, you're not using your camera without power, right? So the very first cheap accessory I can recommend to you, maybe not this specific battery by itself, but you can buy cheaper third-party batteries that don't necessarily cost the arm and the leg that the first-party ones do. Now, I'm going to start this part off with a caution. When you buy a third-party battery, make sure that it's from a reputable third party with a lot of experience and a lot of history behind them. If you just go for the cheapest, I know kind of against the reviewing the cheapest, but you want a reputable third party because there are third-party batteries out there that will destroy your camera. I've always had good luck with Rav Power and Wasabi. Those are the two brand of third-party batteries that I will generally get. You can get them for pretty reasonably priced, and when you buy them in their little pack, they will usually come with like a dual charger, which is very important if you buy like a Sony camera that never comes with a battery charger. So first up, for the cheapest, reputable third-party batteries can save you a whole load of money and frustration. Next up, just as important as battery life, right, is you got to have some kind of memory to record the video too. And so what I like to do, so much stuff we got to go through today. And what I like to do is I like to buy a generation or two old SD card. So yes, this is the SanDisk Extreme. I'm not necessarily talking about this specific one. I also use Lexar cards, but you don't necessarily need to buy the high-end newest SD card. Now, even if you're recording in things like 4K, like we're recording in 4K right now, but I'm not using the top-end bitrate. If you need to do things like color grade or do a lot of post-processing, then yeah, you will need the beefier cards with the better write speeds so that you can record in the higher codecs. But if you're not, if you're just doing things straight from out of camera, like today we're gonna do, you can use like a generation or two old SD cards and save you a boatload of money. I bought this 128 gigabyte SD card on Amazon for like 30 bucks, and this will last me a whole lot of video recording time, basically because I just destroyed an SD card not that long ago. We had our very first SD card failure, so we went and bought a whole bunch of new SD cards, and this is where I went because it will record 4K, it will let you get really good image quality, and it works, and it's like 20 bucks cheaper than the top of the line. So recommendation number 2, buy a generation or two old SD card. Next up, if you do a lot of what I do and you do a lot of outdoor video recording and the sun can get really bright, I like ND filters, and there are ND filters out there that are very expensive. I buy the cheapest ND filters I can get on Amazon. Here, check this out. Look at this. So I might have a bit of a problem, but I like having ND filters for every single one of the potential cameras or lenses. We check out a whole bunch of cameras and lenses here on the channel. I don't like having to adjust my exposure with shutter speed. And since I have this many stupid ND filters, we always have to find a way to buy them as cheap as possible. So I buy the cheap ND filters on Amazon. Now, if you are doing professional work or you got clients paying for what you're shooting, then yeah, you should probably invest in like an ND filter that is top of the line, doesn't give you any color distortion, or maybe not even go with variable ND because these are variable. You turn it and you'll get different steps of exposure compensation, so you can shoot wide open outdoors without needing a whole bunch of like set ND filters. But if you have somebody paying for your content, then you should probably use the nice ones. I bought these for like 20 bucks on Amazon. Like, I buy the cheap ND filters because they just work. So number 3 recommendation, get some cheap ND filters, don't expose with your shutter speed, make your videos look all nice, and I didn't say it. So next up, you get a lot of these accessories, right? You got a lot of accessories, you got a lot of stuff that you might want to attach to your camera, but you're kind of stuck with just the regular hot shoe, right? How are you gonna do stuff to that? Well, get a cage. So I like to buy cages for my cameras. I have cages for cameras I don't even have anymore just because I have like a whole collection of them too. This is a cage from Small Rig for the Sony A6300, and you can get some of their cages, especially if you go a generation 2 older. It may not perfectly be designed for your camera, but a lot of times if it's a same style generation of camera, it will still fit in the same body. So I've been using this with my Sony A6400, even though this is a cage for the A6300, and this was like 20 bucks. Look at all this. You get all of these 1/4 inch attachment points, you get an additional cold shoe on top, you get an airy rosette on the side for specific accessories, you get the ability to add even more things. It still lets you access the battery in the SD card. It gives you the ability to have the flip up screen. Cages are super important because they let you, again, you may want audio, you may want a monitor, you may want all sorts of stuff to go with your camera, and the hot shoe mount just doesn't cut it. So you can get absolute steals on cages. So yes, number 4, get a cage. You want your image to look as good as possible, right? And sometimes when you're doing stuff like in studio or you're doing stuff outdoors, the light that you have may not be working for you. So next up, LED lights. Now you can go crazy and get very expensive LED lights. I don't. I use some pretty budget lights. I mean, I do have a very big light right here, but it is the budget, like the Godox SL60W, which is like the cheaper version of the big Aperture 120D. This is the Aperture ALH198. Every company makes a light like this. This one that's currently illuminating my jazz hands here is a newer light, and it's basically the exact same setup. You can get these for like 20 or 30 bucks, but they can be pretty darn powerful, and they're very convenient to use. You just pop a Sony style battery on it, which again, you should get Sony style batteries, the NP size batteries, which use everything. Everything in here is currently being operated. Everything in here is currently being operated by a Sony style battery, but these are great. They come with either cold shoe, so like you can put it on a cold shoe, or you can put it on a tripod or something because it comes with a 1/4 inch adapter, and it is adjustable. So you definitely, these are daylight balanced. They have all sorts of, they have bicolor, they have RGB LED ones, like the one that, that turned off, but was illuminating behind the iMac back there. Yes, buy a small LED light. These are incredibly powerful, incredibly useful. Lighting will make a bad camera look good, and it will make a good camera look bad if you screw it up. Number 5, lighting. Number whatever. I don't even remember what number we're on right now. And look, hey, I found this the other day. It's actually a variable ND for my cell phone. Variable NDs, very important. So you've got all these accessories, right? So there are other accessories, and I didn't want to necessarily talk about specific ones because this is more of a generalized video. But when you talk about cages, there's also cages for like little cameras. So this is the Polar Pro, like, for lack of a better word, cage for the Osmo Pocket. This thing makes the Osmo Pocket worth having. There's not a lot of times where an accessory like makes the actual camera useful. This cage, without this, the Osmo Pocket is not nearly as useful. So you got all this stuff, you got your camera, you want to carry it around, right? But you also want it to be stable. So you're probably going to need a tripod. This is my favorite tripod of all time. You've heard me talk about it before. This is the Manfrotto Pixie. It's very easy. I'm not a big fan of the Joby Gorilla Pod. I do have a couple of them just because I bought into the hype when they first came out. But mine, I can never get it to stand up like solidly straight. I can never get it to wrap around something without falling off. I just can never get the darn thing to work. I use this Manfrotto Pixie for everything. Because look at it, just, hey, it works. Oh, I want a different angle. There you go. You just press this little button in. You move it to whatever angle you want. It's super lightweight. You can use it as a vlogging tool if you really want to. Stability in video is very important, and being able to set your camera down without like dropping it in the mud or in the dirt is also very important, and this does all of that for a very small price. I love this. I love this tripod. Let's say you're on YouTube and you make a lot of camera comparison videos like some of us. Or you just have a camera and you want to add 1 or 2 additional other options and you don't necessarily want a cage, you don't want to take your camera in and out of it. What do? You buy this thing. I don't even know what brand it is. I don't know which one it was, but you can find all sorts of these on Amazon. This is a dual like camera mount, and I have failed in making videos before because this is probably, if you only get one takeaway from this entire video, this is the most useful accessory I have for my cameras. I use this thing in almost every single video. If you've seen me make a camera comparison, it was using this thing because I'll put both cameras on it. You can see it's got a 1/4 inch on the bottom. You just screw the cameras in, or you can screw your camera and audio solution, or your camera and light, or your camera and anything else. This, if you don't have one of these, go out and buy one today. Like they're like $5 or $10, and it just goes right on a tripod. You can see it's got its own little 1/4 inch right there on the bottom. You hook it up to a tripod. It just go. Get one of these today. You don't even need to use my affiliate links. If you want to, that would be awesome. Links in the description below. But you don't even need to use my links. Just buy one of these today. This will make your life so much easier. You know what? This is just gonna be in the shot the rest of the video because of how important this thing is. We've got all this stuff around the camera, but let's say you want the actual image quality to look better. You wanna change up how your shots look. You should definitely get your camera's version of the 50mm prime lens. Now I've got the Panasonic Micro Four Thirds 25mm 1.7 right here, which is super tiny, but is one of my favorite lenses to use on Micro Four Thirds. And over here, I've got the Canon EF 50mm 1.8, which is like a staple of everybody's camera lineup. Like, I keep this lens even when I don't have Canon cameras, because generally you can get a 50mm prime for dirt cheap. This is like, you can find it for $100. You can find this for under $100. 50mm is my favorite focal length. It is what most closely approximates human vision. And with the fast aperture, it also gives the ability to get a nice shallow depth of field. It gives you a little bit of background compression. 50mm primes are some of my favorite. And good news, you can get them for very cheap. And these are the first lens, besides your kit lens, that you should buy. So these are all, let's bring all this stuff back in. These are all the cheap accessories that I use for my videos, and I recommend you use. What are some cheap accessories you use? I'm sure there's some out there that I have no idea about, and I'd like to learn some more. And plus, everybody else can learn if you leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.